Mr. Sheriff, pray give us order. The chaplain of the day will open the exercises with prayer.
Source of all life, you who have created us each with our unique gift, to you we turn in thanksgiving at this milestone in so many lives. Grant, we pray, health and strength to these graduates as they leave here.
Ubi rogatus, ego ipse non certus, sed puto alacubi ultra oficinas biologicas. Poro alii societatem et veritatem in vino Piccadilly filii.
El mejor conguero que hay en Harvard. Aquí está.
No, mentira, el mejor es él.
You have an obligation to use the special opportunities you have had for the benefit of others. What form that takes will depend on your imagination and your energy. There are many ways of working on the side of the angels.
And the bottom line of this also is like, you make of the school whatever you want to make of it.
Yeah,
really.
it's true.
Because once you get out of here, like people ask me, so what are you going to do now? And I tell them, I'm going to go back to music. And at the beginning, they're a little bit like, what?
We will now begin the presentation of degrees, and we will start first with the candidates for the LLM and the SJD degrees.
Also, I'm going to get involved in movies, and the reason I'm going to get involved in film is because I'm trying to help to dispel the stereotype of the Latin that unfortunately has been shown in films through the U.S. This is my manager, original manager.
Felicidades.
Con ellos, con Carlos. Scare me a little bit,
You always think that I'm losing, that I get lost, I really
This is the lady
it.
that started it all, folks. Way back when.
Many years ago.
Not so many, Ma.
Well,
Let me so old.
Some.
At any rate. Thank
Ruben, please.
you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Dean.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. After all, and I don't care what anybody may say, right, guys? We didn't get this thing, this didn't come out of a cornflakes box, We had to
work hard.
We had to work for it. When I look at the ultimate result, what I see is like, 9 months, a year that I went through that made me a better person all around, because I had to face all these different types of pressures and know that you came out.
Well, you did real well, and
Well,
it's a
thank
real
you.
kick for me to be your teacher. And good luck with education.
Thanks a lot, Fred. Everyone returns to the land where they were born, to the incomparable, bewitching attraction of its sun. Everybody returns to the place from where they came, where perhaps more than one love blossomed. Under the solitary tree of yesterday, we dream over and over. Everyone returns through the root of memories, but the time of past love never comes back. The air, which brings in its hands the flower of the past, its aroma of yesterday, tells us very softly to our ear the song learned from afternoons. It tells us with a mysterious voice of thorns and of roses, of moon and honey, that the love of this earth is sacred, that the absence of yesterdays is sad. Then the chorus says, everyone returns. This song, written by a Peruvian, is titled Todos Vuelven. Todos vuelven a la tierra en que nacieron, al embrujo y con
árbol solitario del pasado. Cuántas veces nos ponemos a soñar. Todos vuelven por la ruta del recuerdo, pero el tiempo del amor no vuelve más. Raza, el árbol que trae en sus manos la flor del pasado y su aroma de ayer. No dice muy quedo al oído su canto aprendido del atardecer. Nos dice con voz misteriosa de nardo y de rosa, de luna y de miel, que es santo el amor de la tierra y que triste es la ausencia que deja el ayer. Que santo el amor de la tierra, que triste es la ausencia que deja el ayer. ¡Agua! Todos vuelven por lo eterno del Caribe. Todos vuelven cuando el sol baja cansado. Ya, 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 el recuerdo vive libre. Todos vuelven mariposa del pasado. Todos vuelven cuando el alma se estremece. Canto, canto, canto con las voces del ayer. Todos vuelven a la memoria de un amigo pana. Todos vuelven un perfume de mujer. Todos vuelven, todo vuelve en silencio. Todos vuelven, el pasado que regresa. Todos vuelven, todo vuelve en el recuerdo. Todos vuelven, alma vive en la cabeza. Todos vuelven, todo vuelve, vuelve el barrio. Todos vuelven, la memoria de mi madre. Todos vuelven, el recuerdo del Calvario. Todos vuelven, de la raza y de mi padre. Todos vuelven, todo vuelve del Caribe. Todos vuelven, todo vuelve entre el silencio. ¡Yo! Ay, 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 oh, la, la, le, la, la, no, la. Chao. Avanza, Montalvo. Eddie Montalvo, tumbadora.
This is Panama. This section around here is what's known as Balboa Avenue. Balboa being the discoverer of the Pacific Ocean. I used to walk around here when I was a kid, and things have changed a lot since I was a kid around here. It used to be practically wild. There were no buildings, no roads like this and whatnot. Panama is a very young country, and in those days we were just beginning to develop. I'm not that old, you know, but I mean, I'm reasonably old. And you get back here and you start looking at how things have changed and how different they are from what they used to be. It gives you also, at the same time, that it makes you feel nostalgic about it, about the way it used to be. At the same time, also, it gives you a feeling of movement. You feel you're also moving with the country. And it's a place that I really miss over there towards the backdrop of the bay. That's the old part of Panama. That's where my mother and my father used to live. That's where my grandmother used to live, in that area. It's called Catedral. And that's where the city began, and then it spread out. So basically, you know, this is my father, Ruben. And we're in a place called Plaza Herrera, which is part of like the old Panama, the way the city began itself. And used to live around here, around this area. Momento. So talk to me.
My mother was a professor, and he was the one who really teach Ruben about the way, you know, life is and the people, how you have to learn in order to fight life or whatever. He was the one who really pushed him. His advisor, let's put it that way, was my mother. And he paid great attention to her. I'm talking about your grandmother.
Yeah, she used to say for a long time that she owned part of this park, you know, because her family apparently at one point had a lot of different things, and then they all lost it. The men in the family lost everything. Yeah. That's over there is the place where I was born. And then he used to live a little bit further down that way, right?
All this area. We never moved from this neighborhood for around 20 years.
From here we moved
2 blocks.
2 blocks. You know, that's called
13th Street.
That's called social climbing. You know, we went 2 blocks higher. In 1974, I graduated from the University of Panama, National University of Panama. I graduated as an attorney. I came over and started working as a member of the legal staff of this bank here in the Banco Nacional de Panama. I worked there for a couple of years as an attorney. And in 1974, I then went to New York to pursue another type of career, another type of livelihood, music. That's when I left. I went back to New York and became a musician, much to the chagrin of my mother, who believed that my real career was behind those walls.
When I first started listening to Latin music in the 50s, it was Tito Rodriguez, Tito Puente, and Machito. Obviously, we've come a long way, but in a certain way, it seems like your music does fit into that tradition. How do you think it works? Has it moved the tradition forward?
What I am doing right now is, I guess, I'm doing what they would be doing if they were my age.
Young now.
Now, exactly. Because if you think like all the things, all the experiments that traditionalists like Machito and Mario Bauzá, you know, did when they got together with Dizzy Gillespie and they started experimenting with music and jazz,
right.
Afro-Cuban music and jazz, it's not so different from what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing right now is I'm taking the traditional sounds, pop sounds, or sounds that are part of the international music scene, and adapting those sounds through this Caribbean,
the traditional rhythm
base of
Right.
salsa music. Yeah, sure. Searching for America. I'm searching for America, and I fear I won't find it. Its traces have become lost amongst the darkness. I'm calling for America, but it can't answer me. Those afraid of truth have made her disappear. Surrounded by shadows, we deny the certain. While we live without justice, there will never be peace. Living under dictatorships, I search, but I can't find you. No one knows where your tortured body is. You have been kidnapped, America. You have been gagged, and it is up for us to free you. I'm calling for you, America. Our future awaits. Before it dies, help me to search. The whole notion behind the Columbus voyage, I don't think that the whole purpose was just to find a shorter route to the Indies and then capitalize, in because Spain would participate in the economic earnings of such venture. I also think that the people that signed in to go were people who really were looking for something else, a new beginning, a place where they would not have to be submitted to things that they did not want to be a part of in Spain. But in the sense of the promise, we still have not found America, really. We managed to take something that existed in an undisturbed way, and we managed to just recreate everything that is bad about us and about civilization in general. So in that sense, we're still looking for America. We're still looking for the promise. I think, as hard as it may seem, if we take in fact that mankind, or humankind, from the beginning, we have seen not to be able to, not to repeat the same errors over and over. I still believe that fear, if anything, is going to make us reflect and stop, and probably then that promise of America will be fulfilled.
Buscando América. Estoy buscando América y temo no encontrarte. Tus huellas se han perdido entre la oscuridad. Estoy llamando a América, pero no me responde. La han desaparecido los desierto, mientras no haya justicia, jamás tendremos paz, viviendo dictaduras. Te busco y no te encuentro, tu torturado cuerpo no saben dónde está. Argentina, Salvador, Guatemala. Si el sueño de uno es el sueño de todos, romper la cadena y echarnos a andar, tengamos confianza, pa'lante mi raza, a salvar el tiempo por lo que vendrá. Oca. Te han secuestrado América y amordazado tu boca, y a nosotros nos toca hoy ponerte en libertad. Te estoy buscando, América, nuestro futuro espera, y antes que se nos muera te vamos a encontrar.
this country has perhaps the best constitution on earth. This country. This country has always been presented as a symbol, to the point that people come here. People don't go to Russia. They come here because of what this country says and offers. People like myself are disappointed of finding that a lot of the things that are offered are not true. They're like a Hollywood set. Great house on the outside, and when you open it and you look, just sticks. There's nothing else in. There's still some furniture around. And what people like myself are trying to say is, don't do this, because it is a symbol that it embodies the best possible offering that society can make, or humans can make to another one. When I found out in Panama, and I grew up believing this was the biggest, greatest country on earth, me and millions of Latin Americans. We believed it because of the music, we believed it because of the movies, we believed it because of the role of the U.S. By defeating fascism. We were, our heroes were U.S. was our hero. Now, when I found out, that a black in this country couldn't sit up in the front of a bus as close as 1963, disappointment. Said, what? In the land of the free? And then you begin to ask yourself a lot of things and reevaluate a lot of things. In 1964, there were riots in Panama where we had 21 dead, 500 wounded, only because we wanted to put our flag next to the U.S. flag. Well, the whole issue of the Panama Canal has been an emotional one. Has involved Panamanians and North Americans since the late 19th century. A tremendous engineering feat. Nevertheless, it did not produce the type of benefits that were originally expected from the Panamanian side. The history of the canal has been one of clashes between U.S. and Panamanian authorities, and which led to substantial changes throughout the years. It is interesting to say, in the future, the year 2000 will be actively involved in the administration of the canal. Like I said before, there's been a great amount of Panamanians who have died defending the notion of sovereignty, and we were always concerned about the jurisdiction over not just the canal itself, but over the territories that surround it. It's going to be very interesting to see what's going to develop in years to come. We should hope that we will learn both sides to communicate and work with each other. I wrote this song titled Shark, Tiburón. Now, the purpose of the song was to express my and our dislike for intervention. Now, U.S. foreign policy has been intervening in the region all this time, so of course the song would directly be placed on the U.S. But then a funny thing happened. England had a problem also with Argentina. And then the song all of a sudden is not a song that can be applied exclusively to the U.S. I am also opposed, if the Russians would walk in, send an army and walk inside of any Latin American country, like just walk in to put order and whatnot, I'd scream. Of course I'd scream, because what's the difference between a Russian or North American in terms of intervention? None. The problem that we've had in Latin America, though, has not been with Russian paratroopers or Russian Marines. There weren't Russian Marines who jumped in Panama in '64. There weren't Russian Marines who jumped in Santo Domingo in '65. If there had been Russian Marines, we would have thrown rocks at them too and asked them to get the hell out of there and go back to where they belong. all we want is to be left to deal with our own problems, I think we have the capacity. And at any rate, we have the responsibility to do it for ourselves.
Tiburón. Against intervention, pap. Ruge la mar embravecida, la barrera en el horizonte, brilla el verde azul del gran Caribe, con la majestad que el sol inspira. Y el guerrero va pasando, recorriendo el reino que domina, pobre del que caiga prisionero, hoy no habrá perdón para su vida. Es el tiburón que va buscando, es el tiburón que nunca duerme, es el tiburón que va acechando, es el tiburón de mala suerte. Anda. Y se traga el sol en el horizonte, y el nervioso mar se va calmando. Se oyen los arrullos de sirena, embobando el cielo con su canto. Brillan las estrellas en la noche, la nube viajera va flotando. Luna reposa entre el silencio de ese gran Caribe descansando. Solo el tiburón sigue despierto, solo el tiburón sigue rondando, solo el tiburón sigue intranquilo, solo el tiburón sigue acechando. Tiburón que buscas en la orilla, tiburón que buscas en la arena, tiburón que buscas en la orilla. Ay, y serpiente marinera, tiburón que buscas en la orilla. Que buscas acá afuera, tiburón que buscas en la orilla, tiburón. Cuida con la ballena, tiburón que buscas en la orilla, tiburón. Si no tuyo es mar afuera, tiburón que buscas en la orilla. Miguel, respeta mi bandera. Patria.
We just witnessed a political assassination right here in the streets of Panama, folks. The majority of my songs are songs that are describing situations that occur in Latin American cities in general. The songs about love, songs about problems in the street, problems in life, relationships. Some are funny, others are tragic. But I mean, I'm doing like an urban chronicle type of music. That's what I'm doing. Basically, it's like musical journalism in a way. It's like reporting the city folklore. Now, within the Latin American society, politics are very important, and they permeate society. I mean, whether you like it or not, you are involved in what's going on. Some are passive, others are active, but I mean, we're all involved. Political consequences affect us all. Well, I found this, it's a quote of Pablo Casals. Pablo Casals, you know, the celloist from Puerto Rico. Pablo Casals said, "I know there are those who believe artists should live in an ivory tower, removed from the struggles and suffering of their fellow men. That is a concept to which I had never been able to subscribe. An affront to human dignity is an affront to me, and to protest injustice is a matter of conscience. Are human rights of less importance to an artist than to other men? Does being an artist exempt one from his obligations as a man? If anything, the artist has a particular responsibility because he has been granted special sensitivities and perceptions, and because his voice may be heard when other voices are not. Who indeed should be more concerned than the artist with the defense of liberty and free inquiry, which is essential to his very creativity? It wasn't really a political assassination, it was not at all. Those things don't happen here.
There is a tradition in Latin America, certainly in Mexico and other places, of using the lyrics of music to make social points, political points, to tell stories.
Yeah.
Certainly most that I know best of is in Mexico.
Yeah.
But Cuban music, for whatever reason, you know, probably the dictatorships that have lasted for so long there, didn't seem to have that tradition. It was really more a celebration or a love, the traditional love song. Was there an incorporation made? Certainly in your music there is.
Yeah, but I think probably one of the reasons that could explain that was that since the music was basically produced within the ghetto, played by ghetto residents. Right. And when I say ghetto, I don't mean it despectively. I'm just reflecting people who live under same kind of conditions, not the most favorable conditions that a society can produce for its members, because it was a ghetto type of music and addressed ghetto situations, and it was used mainly to escape that tremendous, pressure of living under those conditions. The music was never utilized to address
Saturday night music.
Exactly, it was Saturday night music. Let's go have a drink and let's have a good time and let's talk about this and that. And also, it just reflected like certain values and certain outlooks, like the el macho, the barón, the guy from like the corner, the bravo, the guapo, the guy that comes and says, hey, tells a woman, you can leave, but you'll never forget me, and if you leave, you'll see what's going to happen to you. Or the guy's always complaining about the friend that betrayed him.
You parody that in a certain way in some of your music.
Yeah, because it's it's just such a silly thing, also to be just limited, to this type of production. What happened was that the ghetto became also a producer of people who did not stay in its margins. We could live in a ghetto situation, but we didn't have to live in a ghetto situation in our minds. So through education, we began to expand ourselves, to move away out of the working class neighborhood reality, and started looking at the city. We started looking ahead. Now we have this song, Move On. Originally, this song, Muévete. This song was recorded by a group called Bam Bam. The author is a Cuban, Juan Formel, and I changed the original lyrics. I wanted to make the song, actualize the song. I didn't want the song to say what it originally said, which was, let's dance and dance this way and let's dance again. And I took the song now, to talk about the need to get together and do something about, but really move and do something about the situation existing today in South Africa. There seems to be a momentum going, and I believe that everybody should get involved in this. I think, want to end up, or at least mitigate for now, hoping in the future to end it. The only way to end it is not to teach the kids to be a racist or have racist attitudes. It's the worst possible application of our heart's power to be, judging people based on the color of the skin or their place of origin. At any rate, I took this song, Muévete, Move On, and said, from the Caribbean to Soweto in Africa, our song goes saluting those who defend freedom and use truth as a shield. There's not a bullet that can kill truth when reason defends it. Let us join together to finish off evil. Move and put your heart in it. Most of us seek our own comfort. This has been so throughout life. Those who go up front seldom look back to help those in need. But today, we got to follow a different route. Our future depends on all of us. We can change the present if we put our hands together. Get a move on, people.
This song is very specially dedicated to Soweto, South Africa. Oh. And racism. Yeah. Come on, brother. Let me see your hand up there now. You're talking to a Belgian boy, you know. You're talking to a Belgian boy. What's your hand? Okay, so down. All right. Del Caribe a Soweto en África, para nuestra canción como un saludo, para los que defienden su derecho a libertad y usan la verdad como su escudo. Pues no hay bala que mate a la verdad cuando la defiende la razón. Reunámonos todos para acabar con la maldad. Muévete y pon todo el corazón. Todo el mundo busca su seguridad. Eso ha sido así toda la vida, pana. El que va adelante casi nunca mira atrás, para ayudar al que algo se lo pida. Pero hoy día llega la necesidad de buscar un rumbo diferente para salvar al mundo de tanta maldad. Tenemos que reunir a la gente. Aquí y allá, allá y aquí. Si no hacemos algo, el mundo se va a morir. Go.
we're getting this integrated audiences. You know, now we're getting a lot of guys in the dances. You know, we have guys showing up to the gigs that play in rock and roll. You know, Stevie Van Zandt was there the other day. Joe Jackson was a dear friend. You know, and Paul Stanley. You know, you're getting now, you know, that kind of, you know.
Well, you shared the bill with Joe Jackson at Madison Square Garden within the last year.
Yes. Joe,
which was impossible to imagine 5 years ago.
Right.
Impossible to imagine that now.
Right.
And I think that must come from a certain exhaustion of the form of rock and roll. That the great early surge of energy of rock and roll is kind of exhausted and it's looking for other places to derive nourishment from.
I think that right now, one of the best things that salsa music has, Latin American music has, is its passion, you know. It's very passionate music, it's vibrant. It has not been like, you know, presented in this very artificially correct, perfect packaging.
Están tomándose un café, sentados sin saber por qué, sin tema para conversar, no saben ni a dónde mirar, y así prolongan el final. Hold on, I made a mistake.
Is it yasi or is it asi?
No, I made a mistake.
I have like 5 asi there.
That's it. Yes.
Roman numeral 5 asi. So it's coming out like vasi.
My mistake. Asi. Yeah, you got it right. I keep doing it though. I keep doing that. Yasi. It's asi.
Sin tema para conversar, no saben ni a dónde mirar, y así prolongan el final.
That part is out.
Así prolongan el final.
Así prolongan el final. Aunque ya todo les da igual, su triste juego del amor, donde el silencio es
We always, as a family, we always sang in Spanish, even though I didn't understand much of what I was singing. It was something that I learned to do. It's kind of like lip reading, you know. I used to kind of chameleon in harmony along with my father. And then my brothers and my sister became fairly fluent in the language, and somehow I managed to avoid that. I don't know why. But at any rate, I miss it. You know, I used to love to sing in Spanish so much, and when I go back to sing with my family, we still sing that way. And it gets my voice up on a little place that I like. Rock and roll gets your voice kind of in a hard, kind of a tense place. And when I started singing with Nelson, I got up on a place that has more kisses when you sing. It's got little kisses in it, you know. It becomes a very sensual thing that you get to do. And singing in Spanish has the most kisses. That's why I like to do it. But I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm learning. I have this teacher. So when he asked me if I would sing a harmony on his record, I was completely delighted, because you can only learn by doing, you know. I can't. There isn't a book you can get, you know, say, how do you learn how to be a singer in Spanish? And it's always been a dream of mine to make an album of these Mexican songs that I learned from my father. When I go to the record company, I'd say, gee, I'd really like to make a record in Spanish. And they go, give us a break, you know? What else are you going to come up with?
Could you play that back, please?
Aunque ya todo les da igual, su triste juego del amor, donde el silencio es ganador.
Okay, you know what? Donde let's do, you know what?
I want to see where you put your D. Say ganador.
Donde el silencio es
The D, I want
That's what
to
you do.
It's
the
just
phrase,
in the pronunciation, not
ganador,
musically.
ganador.
Okay.
But you know what? One beat that you can go, donde el silencio, donde el silencio es ganador. Still too long,
I
right?
gotta figure out how you do your D's so I can match them, because I can't figure out where you put your tongue.
Ganador.
Dor.
Do.
Dor. Is it up on the roof of your mouth, the back of your teeth? Or
Dor.
Dor. You can't do it on the bottom teeth.
Ganador.
Dor.
God, I don't know.
What do you do on your bottom teeth?
Where is it? Ganador. Aside from the fact that I think she's an excellent singer, I also believe that it's really important that we start getting the point across in terms of arts in general, that we shouldn't be alienated into corners, you know, white music in this way, this side, black music here, Latin music over there, you know. I think it's music in general, and we should all be together and work together. So it was a great opportunity to do so. And we talked about it, and, you know, same thing, said, hey, let's go, let's do it. Aside from the fact, and I'll say, you know, I like her very much as a person.
Gee.
It's true. You know, because otherwise, you know, you also find artists that are very talented and everything, but are not as human as they should be in certain aspects and in their lives, you know, the way they handle them. And for, you know, whatever reasons, you know, I guess it has to do with the personality of each one. I always got along very well with her, so I figured, you know, let's do it, and here we are. Así prolongan el final. But to get, tú sabes, la afinación, Así prolongan el final.
Así prolongan el final.
Right.
Aunque ya todo les da igual.
Second line was fine.
Así prolongan el final. Aunque ya todo les da igual. Su triste juego del amor. Donde el silencio es
Okay, let's take another one. No, but exactly, but let's do one more. Vale.
Okay, all the way from the...
All the way from the top. Sí, vamos.
I always forget the beginning when I go through the ending.
Fight,
and it makes it so hard. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, was it this way? Is that how you do it? The Latin way. Okay, I got it.
Vaya, brother.
Like this, how? That way?
Vaya, brother.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Mira.
It's like that.
No, pero ahora sí, ya está, olvídate.
Okay, I'm learning all these new things.
Silencios, silences. This is the song I did with Linda. It's about a couple that is breaking up. They can't accept the fact that it's over. You know? They are drinking coffee, sitting not knowing what for. No theme for conversation. They don't even know where to set their eyes. They like each other, but there's no love. They hate each other, but there's no rancor. They look for each other and run away from each other in the midst of the silence that exists after. Loneliness surrounds them, but they won't admit their failure and still hope to return a love that is gone. And they spend their days pretending all's all right, with silences and coffee, expecting yesterday's return. And they prolong the end, although they feel indifference. In their sad game of love, there is never a winner. Thinking of what could have been, no one seems to understand that to live in silences is another way of dying. Something that starts with joy at its end brings agony, a painful, confused state where no explanations are available. Only silences surrounding a promise which died, and a feeling of terror when we think that we will never find another love. At the time, you know, I was going through a hard time with my girlfriend at the time, and after I was coming to America, I wanted to do something lighter. And I remember I sang this songs to a friend of mine, and I said, and then I said, you know, and then he said, that's lighter. And then I realized that there was a there was some pain in the songs as well.
Se quieren, pero no hay amor. Se odian sin que haya rencor. Se buscan y huyen a la vez. Entre el silencio que hay después. La soledad les da un abrazo, aunque no aceptan su fracaso, esperando devolver un amor que ya se fue. Y así pasan los días, pretendiendo que todo está bien, con silencios y café, esperando que regrese el ayer. El ayer. The Mexican comes out there.
The Mexican is always coming out. It can't
El
help it.
ayer. Wonderful.
What do you think that's gonna happen with music in general? Like,
Well, it just, I mean, whenever music gets stuck, like it did in the 70s, pop music got kind of stuck, it always looks to some kind of an ethnic current, you know, and it always goes backwards for a while, too. It has to backpedal, you know, because you always have to go back to get the context of what went before. But it just seems to me like in Los Angeles, which is indicative of kind of what the cultural swing of the country is going to be, there's so much more Spanish being spoken. It's almost, English is going to be a minority language soon, in another 20 years, I think, if it's not already. And there's so many interesting rhythms. You know, the cultural potential for the combination of these of this new little melting pot that's happening is so exciting just from the rhythm section that it's got to be Latin music. I'm just convinced of it. You know? Or Latin music having a heavy, you know, influence in it.
the only thing I'd like to interject here is that as a member, a resident of New York City, I believe that the cultural swings of the nation are registered in New York.
Oh, yeah?
The farther you get from the ghetto, will the music be drained of its energy, of its fundamental basic energy?
I don't think so, as long as you're not using music for its economic purpose. If you're thinking of music in terms of just making a living for yourself, you're gonna be ready to make any change and any departure and sever your ties with all the background, just like young professionals do, unfortunately, today in many countries in Latin America. Utilize the profession exclusively to get a better standard of living
For themselves.
For themselves, and then they don't go back. They never go back. As long as the musicians keep themselves thinking of music as the most important form of communication today, in my opinion, we're gonna be fine. Take my shadow through the streets again. I can't think much, but I feel the pain. Seems like old times, it is sad, but true. All I ever do is think of you. What I'd like to be able to do at some point, just in terms of communication, is to be able to have the same facility that I have to express, to understate, that I have in Spanish, to have that same kind of ability, you know, and not sound like I have nightmares, sounding like hokey, you know, or what you call it, cliches, you know. You love, I left you, you know. But I guess in time, at any rate, it'll always be, my major concern will always be to write in Spanish, because that's what I do best, I think. and that's where I need it the most, I think, and what gives me the most satisfaction.
Since it is a communication, and one of the problems that Garcia Marquez and others have talked about is the big problem of illiteracy in all of Latin America. This is one of the ways to communicate complicated ideas to people who can't read and write, isn't it?
Arciniega said that in towns, in people that begin, the story is sung and not written, you know. And in the sense, we are documenting our history through music.
And inventing it.
And inventing it also, and presenting possible, you know, possible ways into which trying, without believing that just by singing we're gonna change the world. Right. At least, you know, not only you're bringing the possibility of a communication, a way of communication to people that sometimes don't have that opportunity of expressing themselves, but at the same time we're ending a little bit, or at least attempting and beginning to really end the polarization that exists in Latin America, this time through music, you know, as a communicator.
In the lyrics, do you feel yourself in the tradition then of poets like Neruda and Ruben Dario and so on?
In a very modest level, yes, because we are expressing ideas, we are expressing a spirit that is popular, again, popular in the sense that it's our background, it's where we're coming from, it's the way we look at things and the way we try to make a difference. You know, I don't know if Neruda did it for the same reasons. You know, I feel like, you know, we're trying to at the same time, you know, I really think that we're trying to make people feel less lonely. And I think we're trying to make people aware that they're not alone. You know, that this is something that is shared and understood, and the same people that have a problem are not alone. Other people also have the problem, are aware of it, are addressing it, and the solution will come to all of us. You know, Neruda,
sense of community created by the...
And the spirit, you know, it's the same spirit that moves any artist. You know, Neruda, Dario, just to quote those two. And myself, a guy like Gregory Hines, who's a dancer, you know, well, just everybody that is an artist, I think, has that spirit, that need to communicate. One thing keeps coming back and back and back to me, and it's how young this country is again, and how many things are to be done. And very hesitant about just coming out right and saying, well, I'd like to be this, I'd like to be that, but the fact remains, eventually I'm going to return here. And I say eventually because I can't pinpoint a specific date. But if by the time I come back, I find that there is a degree of political maturity in the country, and I can really get the feeling and the sense that people in fact do want to have certain things changed, and they believe that I can be of any help. If that would mean for me to get involved as a candidate for the highest office of this country, I would certainly be something that I consider. And the more I look around and the more I talk with people, the more it seems that that is not such a far-fetched idea. I must say, and I guess I'm speaking for all motherhood, that there is hope for sons in this world. Originally, I'm sure my mother thought I was going to be a full-fledged hoodlum.
No.
And she'll say no now, you know.
No, I know that. No, I know.
That's not what I used to hear when I was a child, and I was tied to my chair. Okay. Pedro Navaja was inspired by the idea of Macheath in the Brecht Weill three-penny opera. Now, I love the melody. It's a haunting melody. It's a haunting melody, and the whole idea of this character, you know. So what I did was, I heard that song when I was when I was like 8 or 9 years of age. Bobby Darin recorded Mac the Knife. And I remember I used to, in parties, I used to sing it, you know, mimicking when they give me a quarter or something. And although I was terribly, terribly shy, you know, terribly shy, I would still do it, you know, so I like the song. And at any rate, I always grew up with that on my mind. And then in Panama, when I was a kid, there were two gangs that became very notorious, you know. One were called the Black Sneakers, because of course they wore orange sneakers, no, black sneakers, right? Yeah. And the other one was called the Gold Tooth, because they all had a gold tooth, of course. And at any rate, I took those two elements, I kept them. Then when I came here to New York in '74, you know, and I look at the guys, you know, bebopping all around, you know, 42nd and 46, and, you know, and they're huge, you know, pinmobiles, you know, pop. And they kind of brought memories, you know. I started connecting it with, you know, the experience in Panama and the Brecht character. And then I created this song called Pedro Navaja, which means razors peaked. And the whole thing was the encounter between him and a woman in the street, you know, and how no matter what you do, no matter how much ahead you think you are, you never have control. You never really have control over what you think you know or what you think you have. And sometimes, most of the time, somebody else ends up reaping the benefits from whatever it is that you do, you know.
This tune, if you know, do you know Mac the Knife? Oh, the shark bites with such teeth he did, and he shows them pearly white. Just a jackknife as old Mac he did, and he keeps it out of sight. Bueno, that's not the tune you're gonna hear. Por la esquina del viejo barrio lo vi pasar, con el tumbao que tienen los guapos al caminar. George Mooney, las manos siempre en los bolsillos de su gabán, pa' que no sepan en cuál de ellas lleva el puñal. Usa un sombrero de ala ancha de medio lado y zapatillas por si hay problemas salir volado. Lentes oscuros pa' que no sepan que está mirando, y un diente de oro que cuando ríe se ve brillando. Golden Tooth, como a 3 cuadras de aquella esquina, una mujer Brenda King va recorriendo la acera entera por 5ª vez, y en un zaguán entra y se da un trago para olvidar que el día está flojo y no hay clientes para trabajar. Un carro pasa bien despacito por la avenida, no tiene marcas pero todos saben que es policía. Pedro Navaja, las manos siempre dentro del gabán, mira y sonríe y el diente de oro vuelve a brillar. Mientras camina pasa la vista de esquina a esquina, no se ve un alma, está desierta toda la avenida. Cuando de pronto esa mujer sale del zaguán y Pedro Navaja aprieta un puño dentro del gabán, mira pa' un lado, mira pa' el otro y no ve a nadie. Ya la carrera pero sin ruido cruza la calle, y mientras tanto en la otra acera va la mujer, refunfuñando pues no hizo pesos con qué comer. Mientras camina del viejo abrigo saca un revólver esa mujer y va a guardarlo en su cartera pa' que no estorbe. Un 38 Smith & Wesson del especial libre de todo mal. Y Pedro Navaja, puñal en mano, le fue pa' encima. El diente de oro iba alumbrando toda la avenida. Mientras reía el puñal un día sin compasión, cuando de pronto sonó un disparo como un cañón. Y Pedro Navaja cayó en la acera mientras veía a la mujer que revólver en mano y de muerte herida. Él le decía: yo que pensaba, hoy no es mi día, estoy sala. Pero Pedro Navaja, tú estás peor, bro, no estás en nada. Y créanme, gente, que aunque hubo ruido nadie salió. Tuvo curiosos, tuvo preguntas, nadie lloró. Solo un borracho con los dos cuerpos se tropezó. Cogió el revólver, el puñal, los pesos y se marchó. Y tropezando se fue cantando desafinado el coro que aquí les traje y da el mensaje de mi canción. Richie, la vida te da solo